Hi guys, Ted Elsner, Sacramento Historical Fencing Academy. Just doing our little talks to waste time during the apocalypse, get us back through to training in person. Today, one of the things I want to talk about is swords, and specifically I want to talk about leverage in the sword. In the German system, we're told the parts of the sword are from the cross to the middle of the blade is the strong. From the middle of the blade to the tip is the weak. And that's kind of where we're left. Now, certain things. Attack with the weak, parry with the strong. Okay, cool. There is a third part of the sword that is sometimes mentioned, and it starts to get a lot more attention in the 17th century, in the period immediately following Meyer's discussion. So if I take the strong, and I take the weak, and I take halfway between the strong, or excuse me, between the weak and between the strong, that gives me the middle of the sword, right? So, to there. And you see that in the drawing, that I'll put, how about right here, right? You can see that they've broken the sword up into those components. We have the weak, we have the strong, and between the two is the middle. So, one of the things that gets introduced as a terminology in the period immediately following Meyer, we're talking within 30 years of the writing of the 1570, we start to see this showing up. And that's to define those four components a little bit more explicitly, right? So that we have the weak, if you will, of the sword, the true weak. We have, as the later period will say, half weak, the half strong, and then the strong. And honestly, that's a really important component. So yeah, we've got the weak, the half weak. I'm going to refer to it as the middle weak because the half weak term is later, but it's synonymous. We have the half strong or middle strong, and then we have the strong. And each one of those plays kind of a role in fencing. They all have different leverage advantages. They have different actions when dealing with a sword. So this is going to be something that's going to come up in our future videos, which is why I'm talking about it today. The first is the weak, right? If I'm on my weak and their weak in the true weak, I really do not have much power at all, anything on there. So if there's a binding on my sword at this point, I don't want it to occur. Like if we're both on the weaks, then it doesn't matter. And I'm sure you guys see this all the time. You play out here and points are slipping side to side. But if I get closer in, there's no way I can control this with leverage. Long edge or short, flat, I'm gonna lose that. So in this scenario, this is kind of the point where it tells us, well, if I'm on my weak, true weak, with any part of his sword, I want to be on top at the very least. I may not be able to dominate the line from here, but at least in this position, I have a better sense of feeling to respond in, right? Because if they do nothing, I'm going to try and glide in. If they set it to the side, I'm going to be able to strike around. It gives me options. Then I get to the half weak or the middle weak. Now this starts to create some interesting opportunities for what I wanted to do. I'm too close. I'm technically on the weak of the sword, right? I'm on that half of the sword. But from here, if I try and Durchwechsel, if I try and change through, I'm going to hit more often than not the cross. I'm going to run into problems. So actions from the half weak in a lot of situations are going to require things like Zucken, the pulling. Now, if I know that a parry is about to occur, a Zucken by pulling back to Flug and then shooting back in can be a great choice, right? So I'm striking in, and I say, oh, it's going to be on my half weak, pull, and then right back in, okay? And we're there. Alternatively to that, there can be times when maybe, let's see if I can get this to work, maybe I've won the overbind, technically, but I'm on their strong with my half weak. There we go. Any attempt from me to just push straight in, it's going to get set aside. So instead from here, when I have that, this again gives us a great opportunity for Zucken. Maybe we're doing Meyer's Zucken, so I'm going to pull back up to the high guard, and as that happens, I'm expecting the chasing to occur and the extension. So I'll start to pull back up, and then I'm going to turn the short edge and I'm going to strike right back in, almost as a shield how back into that same opening, right? So I'm up and then right back in. Essentially pulling my sword up onto their weak, turning the edge and striking right back in, taking their weak from an overbind position. Or I might decide to do it ring X style, right? In which case I'm going to pull towards Ox, put my strong on their weak, and finish with a thrust. But in either case, that half weak is going to be great for those opportunities, okay? Or the middle weak. The next one that we see is the middle strong, okay? The middle strong gives us some interesting opportunities. If I'm striking in and they're going to land on my middle strong, well, this is a great opportunity for Duplieren to immediately be turning the edge and coming in with a thrust, coming in and landing a short edge strike as they're going to be out there. Or even as I strike in and I go around and I attack the arm, get them to force themselves out further and then work to the other side. Conversely, I can find on that middle strong section, I don't want to try and Zucken from here. If I try and pull back, I got really far distance to go. I may not be able to clear the blade. I may, if I try and pull up, there's a good chance that I'm too close and they're going to chase into my face. So I'm going to avoid the bind completely on that middle strong distance and go through Ablaufen and strike around. So that's a possibility. Then we have actions that are on the true strong or the strong, right? If I'm here, certainly can't Zucken. Ablaufen is going to turn into a Mutieren really quickly. I mean, it's going to happen here, but there I'm especially toast. It's going to come right in my face. So instead, from here, I want to do what Meyer will refer to as Ausreißen and wrench, or also it sets up a great situation for winding of various types, depending on how we feel for it, whether that's going to be just a wind up into Ox, the hanger of Ox, or, excuse me, if it's going to be one where we wrench basically through the high guard, right? If I'm here and I wrench up through, I'm basically coming up through a version of Vomtag to strike right back down on. I have several different options that occur in this particular space. So there's more, we'll go into this in the future, but going back to it, the strong, maybe half the sword, but the true strong is that quarter. Then we get the middle strong, the middle weak, and the weak. Oh, and don't even get me started on what they actually are on a sword, right? Because even though we break it up with that, what you actually find is that the weak is from that point of percussion to the tip, whereas the point of balance to the cross is the strong, and in between is that true middle. Something to look at for the future. But you will definitely see that when you work with your sword, that if you're catching on your point of balance of the sword, that any parry that's occurring in that last little bit, that's really going to be the strong point. Yeah, you have kind of double it, but it's a way to think about it. Another way is to figure from the point another hand passed. Little rambly there at the end, I apologize. It'll be something we talk about in detail more in the future. But this will be a topic I come back to. Weak, middle strong, strong. So guys, I hope this video has been helpful. If it is, click that like button, subscribe, leave us a comment. Just trying to get more people to pay attention to our channel, come to our live streams, ask questions. All we can try and do right now is help each other out, learn more about historical fencing, and get better. So see you Sundays, and otherwise, have a great day.